President Calderon not only came here today to tell Congress that we just have too robust of a Second Amendment right in this country, he also came here to trash a law that was passed by a legitimate government in Arizona and signed by the legitimate executive of Arizona.
And is polling very well in Arizona.
Yeah, and elsewhere around the country.
2-1, and you said, something up to 69% in some polls, and usually the argument is, oh, well, people don't really understand it. As they read out more clearly what the bill does, as I understand it, support goes up.
More support?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the clip of President Calderon speaking in Congress. Can you guys get that queued up? We'll give you guys a minute to get that queued up. But I want to listen to this. It's about 4 minutes long. We're probably going to stop and start because if you feel the need to speak up.
I will preempt this by just kind of observing, for 8 years, those of us who generally preferred the previous president endured endless calls about how he was a unilateralist cowboy and, all kinds of other names like, Chimpy McCalliburton and all that kind of stuff. But bottom line, the argument was that he was not sensitive in the way he dealt with other countries. He was not diplomatic, and that he was unilateralist. I could be wrong, and I haven't reviewed every speech George W. Bush ever gave. I don't remember him ever going to another country and saying, "You have to pass this law, or else." Right? Am I wrong?
I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head.
I can see something. Well, he invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, but those weren't over. You haven't passed this law. That's you haven't turned over Bin Laden and all the other pre-war Iraq intelligence. There's no case in which, generally, and if you're in. There are ways to say we would like to see progress on this issue. There are very sensitive ways to say we have disagreements and we'd like you to address those disagreements. Philipe Calderon really didn't do that today.
No, he did not. Diplomacy, I don't think, was the watchword of the day.
I'll let you keep, unless if they're ready to go, we can go.
Otherwise, I think so.
I'll rant about diplomacy.
All right, let's listen here to the remarks by the President of Mexico, Philipe Calderon, in Congress today.
There is one issue where Mexico needs your cooperation, and that is stopping the flow of assault weapons and other deadly arms across the border.
Now, listen to the applause.
For those listening on radio, the Democrats are standing, with very few exceptions that I can see.
Yeah, there are a lot of individuals who are standing
John Kerry,
up right now.
Eric Holder is standing and applauding.
Let me be clear on this. I fully respect, I admire the American Constitution. And I understand that the purpose of the Second Amendment is to guarantee good American citizens the ability to defend themselves and their nation. But believe me,
there's an interruption there of applause. Apparently he didn't expect.
Many of these guns are not going to honest American hands. Instead, thousands are ending up in the hands of criminals. Just to give you an idea, we have seized 75,000 guns and assault weapons in Mexico in the last 3 years. And more than 80% of those we have been able to trace came from the United States.
All right, now I'm going to stop right here because this is where we get into the weasel language. I could have stopped when we heard President Calderon say, I respect and admire the Second Amendment.
I like 9/10 of it.
I'm so tired of hearing random people who I know don't respect the Second Amendment. Look, apparently it's okay now. You can admit it if you don't respect the Second Amendment. You can just be honest and upfront and say, I don't give a rip about your right to keep and bear arms. But when we have people like Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, who when he signed gun control laws a few years ago, compared these gun control laws to the Declaration of Independence, and now he's saying, I love the Second Amendment. You know what? It's shameful.
No one's fooled.
No one is fooled. Just drop the shtick. We don't buy it. But the idea where he talked about 80% of the firearms that they could trace come back here. He said 75,000 guns seized over the last 3 years. He didn't say how many firearms were traced over the last 3 years. And that's very important because we know, for instance, I saw a story a couple of days ago I think was meant to advance this idea that, our gun laws need to change. And it talked about a number of rifles that have been seized in Mexico that they believed were of U.S. origin. They hadn't confirmed it, but they believed it was from U.S. origin. But also when they found these rifles that they believed to be of U.S. origin, they found grenades. They found a couple of RPG rounds. They found an anti-tank missile. Things that you don't typically find at a local gun store. We know that the drug cartels...
Do you ever?
No.
Grenade launchers are not for sale in the civilian market.
That was sarcasm. I realize you don't really visit gun stores. No, you cannot find those things at a gun store.
In other words, there is no way that those came from legal purchases in the United States.
No, absolutely not. We know, for instance, that Mexico, the Associated Press got to go see one of the big vaults in which the Mexican government keeps all of the guns that it has recovered. There are more than 300,000 firearms in one of these vaults in Mexico City. So where the 75,000 number comes from, I don't know. But it's obvious that the Mexican president is, a year ago the number was 90%, and that was pointed out to be a lie. Now the new figure seems to be 80%. I have no idea what the number is. I do know that the drug cartels are using the international black market right now to obtain military-grade hardware. They're getting military-grade hardware from the soldiers who are defecting and joining the cartels. They're going AWOL from the Mexican military and joining the cartels. They're taking their rifles with them. They're taking their helicopters with them, Jim.
I was going to say, Cam, do they get missile launchers? Do they get grenade launchers? Do they get all that stuff you were just describing? I mean, gee, maybe I think we may have solved the mystery here of where the stuff is coming from.
So the idea that our rights and that changing our gun laws, it's already illegal, by the way, to engage in a straw purchase. It's already illegal, by the way, to smuggle a gun from the United States into Mexico. That's already illegal. What the president of Mexico is talking about is restricting how robust your right is. Because he says that the bad guys are, getting guns from the United States.
Cam, I can't help but think if he really thinks this is that much of a serious concern, maybe we need like a whole fence, a wall all along the, with gates, and the only way you get through is if they check you at the gate, and he'd like that, wouldn't he? Right? He wants a big secure border.
Apparently, Jim, the border of the United States and Mexico is too big to adequately enforce, but the interior of the United States is small enough.
All right, there we go. Yeah, continental United States is easier to
absolutely than the border. All right, let's listen to more from the president of Mexico, Philipe Calderon.
Carefully, you will notice that the violence in Mexico started to grow a couple of years before I took office in 2006. This coincides, at least, with the lifting of the assault weapons ban in 2004.
Wait. Okay, wait. All right, so the violence starts in 2006, 2 years before Calderon takes office.
Correct.
And the Clinton gun ban expired in 2004, 2 years before the drug cartel violence increased.
Well, Cam, it's a long drive. It may have taken them 2 years to go from...
Under that metric, if the expiration of the Clinton gun ban in 2004 caused the escalation in drug cartel violence in 2006, well, then I guess the drug cartels must be responsible for the election of Philipe Calderon in 2000
we're seeing causation where there is two events here, which is, a disputed notion to say the least. But also, so it just took them a long time to figure out they could do this? Did it,
The average time of trace for a firearm recovered in Mexico that is successfully traced back to the United States is right around a decade. It's right around 10 years. President Calderon doesn't want you to know that. President Calderon doesn't want you to know that the Clinton gun ban was based entirely on cosmetic features. You had semi-automatic rifles that were being sold the entire 10-year period of the Clinton gun ban.
So in other words, literally you're saying that most of the guns they recover were sold, manufactured and sold while the assault weapons ban was in place.
Yes.
Well, that rather refutes everything he's, the entire point of what he's saying, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. 1,000 times yes.